to today's edition of Kubernetes Contributor Experience. My name is Paris. I will lead us into some kind of awesome destiny today. And today is January 23rd. I did turn older a few weeks ago, if anybody missed that. And today we do have a very packed agenda, I'm not gonna lie. And if you do have something to discuss, please put it on the open mic / discussion list. And if we don't get to it today, we can either take it to a mailing list if you need something immediately, or B, we can save it for next week. First things first, we do have a code of conduct that we abide by. Please be excellent to each other. Since we do have a large group on the phone today, if you have something to say while someone else is saying it, please just raise your hand, and I have the gallery view on so I can see your awesome avatars and faces. Also, just ping and chat too if you have something that you'd like to say, and we can call on you after someone takes a breath. And that's my spiel for how to behave. Now I think there are some new contributors on the line right now that have never been on this call before. If you are one of those individuals and would like to give a brief introduction of yourself, now's the time. If not, there's no pressure in doing so. But anybody want to take a shot at introducing themselves?
I will, Paris. This is Marky.
Hey, Marky, shoot.
Hey, I'll go ahead and so for those that don't know me, I'm Marky. I'm a software developer at SIG, and I'm been participating lately, trying to get more involved, and I'm here to help if anybody needs any help. That's it.
Boy, we need help. Woo! Thanks, Marky.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Oh, Anita.
I don't know if I'm a new contributor or not, but I'm Anita Sharma. I'm at Oregon State University, and I do research, and my research is how to help newcomers on board with a specific focus on being inclusive. So we'll talk about it today later.
Yes. I just very briefly met Anita at a Mozilla event after OSCON and was so impressed, and I'm super excited for everybody to hear this type of stuff that Anita works on. So anyone else? Last call for intros.
Hello, my name is Ray, and yeah, I'm located in New York City, East Coast. I work for WeWork, and we are the end user of the Kubernetes. I'm actually helping with SIG Docs, the website translation to Chinese. I came from China, and I help with the translation lead. Yeah, happy to join this contributor experience. This is my first time to.
Awesome, that is great. Translation work is much needed. Thank you so much for all your help there. That's awesome.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And last call. I'm so excited. We have 3 on the phone. Woo! Like, yes. All right. If you have not given an intro previously, you can do so at another one, or feel free to butt in at any time. All right. Now we are going to our main show. Just to give context for folks on the line who have never been on a call before, we usually go through our regular programs. Those are listed on the agenda. Those are just making sure that things are flowing in those regular programs, and making sure we're not going to have any like surprise moments come up. So George is first with office hours. George, do you need anything for office hours?
No, but we had the first one where I was not here and we were able to execute. So thanks to Jeff.
Yeah.
And not only did they do a better job than me, they actually grew the amount of people that could commit after an entire year of failure on my part. So
oh my, that was not fair. No failures, no failures.
Thank you for doing that while I was gone. Just the usual bit. One of the things I want to fix for this year for office hours is, in the past, our diversity has not been very awesome. It's like the same 4 or 5 people. I would literally love to be in a spot where it's like, Bob, we don't need you this week. Like, don't show up. We haven't gotten to the point where we tell people not to show up. So if you have anybody who's doing Kubernetes in production and has that kind of expertise and rotate out. It's only 1 hour a month. They don't even have to do it every month. I give them all sorts of swags and stuff. So if you're looking for people who don't know how to give back and just want to answer user questions, I'd love to slot them in. But other than that, I feel like the project's doing pretty good. It's not bad.
Hey, George, I have a quick question about office hours. Was it considering having the single office hour session instead of two separate ones for Pacific and EMEA? Probably we may have something for Pacific in the morning and EMEA in the evening, but still
Yes.
connected for both.
So ideally, I want to have 3 sessions a day, but I don't yet have coverage in Asia or EMEA. I could, given the volunteers we have, Europe, West Coast is the only thing we can cover. I have everything written down. All we need is 2 or 3 motivated people, and we could just give them everything that we have to pull that off in another time zone. Ideally, I would love to have localized ones if people want to do one in their own native language. Like, we could do all those things. It's just lack of people right now that's keeping us from doing that.
Yeah, that's my concern at the moment. So I was a panelist at last week's office hours edition, and I figured out that we have enough questions there. At the same time, probably if we don't have enough volunteers for the panel, and we don't have enough let's call it technical diversity, so people with the different technical experience who can answer different technical questions. So probably we may start with the single office hour session that will cover that will be EMEA edition in the that will be the single session that will cover a Pacific time zone in the morning and EMEA in the evening, but with the one big group of people for the panel and one big group of people for the questions.
So are you saying we should try to do any?
I'm asking you what are your thoughts on this. Asking you in the group.
We just put a call for volunteers out, George.
I think if we could pull off maybe doing the first, I would stay up till 2 a.m. or something one time to kick it off or something, but we could. I'll write that down as investigate EMEA harder.
We could do it at 11 p.m.
Yeah. Oh boy.
That actually, so I'm going to skip because I actually had the same question for Meet Our Contributors, which is, I wonder if we would benefit from a evening hours Meet Our Contributors, just based off of how many of you all come to our APEC friendly meeting, which is a lot. I mean, we have 10 plus people and most of them are Pacific on this call. I think a lot of people might take advantage of evening hours, even on the West Coast, for stuff like this. What's the general consensus about that? From a Meet Our Contributors, mentoring standpoint? Because right now we run a 7:30 a.m. Pacific and a 1 p.m. Pacific. Because the 1 p.m. I think is actually the lower of the attendance. And I think that's because it's in the smack dab in the middle of the workday.
Yeah, speaking from the EMEA time zone perspective, I would say that Meet Our Contributors is healthier than office hours. So we have the wider panel and enough people who can answer the questions. So Meet Our Contributors, again, from my standpoint, from a person who attends the EMEA edition, is absolutely fine.
Nikita, what do you think about an evening hours for APEC for Meet Our Contributors? Do you feel like that would be well attended or no?
I know that there are lots of people from India who want to contribute and who are interested in attending the session, but 7:30 a.m. Pacific time is India friendly. I'm not really sure if that's friendly for other countries like China or maybe even Australia. Okay. And I am not familiar with the level of interest we have there.
Okay. I might play around with it next month then, and I might switch the 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. and see what happens. Because I'm just curious to see if we can catch people on an evening where they just want to listen, sort of like podcast style. but we'll see. Okay. And for Meet Our Contributors, I definitely still need more volunteers. We have at least two slots for every session from here on out for the rest of the year. That's the same thing that George said. It's a 1 hour time commitment. This is just upstream conversations, not why is Kubernetes breaking in production, luckily. George can take those. But yeah, that's my call for Meet Our Contributors. And then community meeting, George, for Thursdays. Did you have
There's
anything?
a quick comment in chat.
Yep. Oh, I can speak a little bit. Yesterday, the SIG Docs APEC meeting was 10 p.m. Eastern Standard. How was that? How did that go? What was the attendance like there?
Yeah, we have, as you might, I don't know whether folks know, we have a translation team from Korea. I didn't see Japanese folks, but Korean team has some contributors show up. But also keep that in mind. It's also daytime in Asian time zones, so they have a daytime conflicts for their own meetings. So even U.S. time zones, but still a daytime conflicts on the other side.
Okay.
So that could be something we need to keep in mind. It's really hard to find a common time for to join so many different teams together.
Yeah, and I know now that I think it's either it's scheduling or instrumentation that has a super late meeting now. Node has a super late meeting now. There's I think two or three other SIGs now that have super late meetings to cater to the APEC audience. All right. So George, community meeting stuff.
Yep, so I'm gonna plop the schedule there. I went ahead and scheduled the community meeting and SIG updates all the way through August. And so two things here. I also penciled in where I think the this next release retro is, so we can move that. So I shared this with the SIG leads in their list and on their channel. So basically they should theoretically know when they're giving their SIG status updates on Thursdays. In reality, they never do. So one thing we're asking hosts, and I've been doing, is reminding them ahead of time and doing all this kind of stuff. But on column E, you should see hosts. We are looking for more people to host the meeting, so it's not just Paris, Josh, and I. So if you want to commit starting with next week, feel free to just add your line there. If you're interested in hosting, you're literally just following the agenda. It's not, the meetings almost sort of runs itself. That's my way of convincing you that it's not that hard to do. And if you ever need help, I'm always available to help you out if you get lost. So if you want to help facilitate the meeting, it's a lot of fun. I like to equate it as like hosting Saturday Night Live, but no one believes me. So if you're looking to host a meeting, there it is. I've left enough slots there as well that are empty. So if a SIG needs to switch or can't go one week or something, we can kind of shuffle them around. So we should be all set until August 1st, which is very forward-thinking of us. Any questions on that? It's pretty straightforward.
All right. Thanks, George. All right. Now we will typically go into, actually, no, I did add something to our regular programs list. One thing that we have started to do is every week a need to know email for all of the chairs and tech leads. That's like, it's over 100 people. We're doing this in hopes to bubble up communication that we think is super important, and then they can disseminate this information to their weekly meetings. Some of these people have thousands of members in their SIGs, so it's important that they water down the information as well. So we give them nuggets every week of info, like 3 to 4 nuggets. For example, last week's nugget was, hey, the maintainer track survey went out for KubeCon. Don't forget to sign up for an intro or a deep dive. Also, please do your YouTube videos manually. The automation broke, et cetera, et cetera. So if anybody has any tips that they think we need to convey to the chairs for our tech leads this week, please add them to the doc. For instance, I'm going to tell them about the Meet Our Contributors on February 7th. I'm going to ask them for mentors. We're going to tell them that they should create roles that's something that we should also talk about as well. But things like project manager, issue triage captain, new contributor ambassador, they're creating new opportunities for people in their SIG. So that's what the need to know email is about, and why you'll see that from now on the regular program list. And so again, this is just a way for us to spider out communications to chairs and tech leads. Does anybody have any questions about that? Cool. All right, let's go to the project board really quickly. There's just so much going on this, and we can spend forever on this. And let me go ahead and share my screen. Desktop share. Let's do this. All right. So our lovely project board. Also, why I want to show you this as well is I also want us to grow up the culture where we're filing issues. Again, if you're working on something for contributor experience right now and it's not reflected on this, it should be, so that we can get better at tracking exactly what's going on within our crew. So I just want to talk about anything that's blocked. Does anybody have anything that is blocked right now that's not showing on this list? Last call. Everybody is moving and grooving. That's what I like to hear. Yeah, we're blocked still with one-on-one mentoring process stuff because calendars suck and it's hard. And then time. So we are still blocked there. And then I don't know what's going on with the sub-project details in SIG XAML. What, Aaron, do you know?
We talked about this last week a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super stretched thin.
This is just time?
Stephen's in a different time zone. So yeah, it's time.
Okay. All right. So we should just rename this column to we don't have any damn time.
Oversubscribed.
Yeah, well, we're gonna name that column oversubscribed. So, and then our backlog is super deep too. This is just stuff that has not been picked up yet. I don't know if we should go through here and decide if this is blocked because of time, or if it's blocked because no one is picking it up. But we need to get some of this stuff is super old. We need to figure it out. Like this rename release note. Aaron, what the heck is this about? Like, this is like the
I actually opened a PR for that.
Yeah.
And I think Aaron reviewed it, but I haven't followed up yet.
Can we at least remove the priority important? I feel like it's been open for what, 2 years?
Are you sure about that?
What, has it been open for 2? Yeah, look, April 8th, 2016.
Awesome.
Like,
oh, it's getting done this release cycle.
Oh yeah, 2 years, y'all.
So maybe you want to move that to in progress.
Yeah, I wouldn't clap yet either. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm also it's work has started on it. No, I think so I'm a big fan of the release note part of it. We're early in the cycle. Now's the time to do this. So.
All right, I feel like you released some GitHub team stuff this morning too, right? I saw some KDev stuff going. No, what was that? I skimmed it. I was still had the crusties in my eye.
When we get to open discussion, I have a bunch of stuff to talk about.
I think it was the getting rid of the service accounts.
Okay. Yeah, the service accounts. Okay. Yeah, I knew those. Okay, cool. All right. So does anybody want to do a quick stand up for if anything that you have in progress? Because we do a full schedule and it's...
I can.
Okay, yeah, Chris, if you want to do a stand-up, go ahead. Tell us about stuff that...
Yeah, I'm working on the blog post for the Contributor Summit, and Paris and I have been batting stuff back and forth. And I actually have 30 minutes in my calendar to work on it today. So that's where we're at with that. Hopefully it'll be done today. But George had a question. George, what is your question, sir?
Mine was going to be after yours. I have a stand-up item. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so Chris is working on blog post stuff this week. And then anybody else want to stand up?
I can make a brief update on the source accounts.
Oh, hold on 1 second. George had his hand up.
Just real quick, Bob, this one, number 2884, the card, you had a PR for the moderation guidelines for Discuss, right? So we could close this today if we merge that.
Yeah, I think that we're waiting on one thing from Paris. Weren't you trying to get something in first before
No, I wanted to give it. I just need to give it to you.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you talking about the discuss.cates.io guidelines?
Yep.
Yeah.
I can link the draft of that if people are interested.
Link to the draft in the
yes, please.
In the issue.
I think we should get that. We could get that PR today.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Cool. That's all I have. Thanks.
All right. Anybody else want to stand up? All right. I mean, I could stand up, but I literally could be here the whole day doing the stand up. So I'm working on a lot of stuff with Dawn, with data, with contributor site strategy stuff, and coming up with personas and the value propositions for each one. Also, we are trying to figure out the Zoom stuff. I think the TLDR here with the Zoom stuff, and for people that need context, is that our chairs are under administrative burdens, I would say that word at this point, with a lot of our productivity infrastructure. And Zoom is very heavy to administer. From our perspective as the user right now, it's like, oh my God, this is a great product. But from when you have 70 plus people that have keys and licenses into this system, and then you have to like tell them how to protect their community and like, oh, you need to click this one button or else this one thing won't work. That gets very laborious, especially with engineers who are like, we just want to click something and talk to each other. So we've been trying to figure out ways to automate that process for them. And it has been, it passed with flying colors at a very small level. But then when you get it to a very large level, like a cluster lifecycle who has 9 projects, sub-projects rather, meaning 9 meetings a month, or excuse me, a week. That gets a little hairy, and it just broke. So we need to go back to the drawing boards with productivity stuff. So if productivity stuff sounds interesting to you, come on and talk to us. But we're also doing moderation stuff this week. What's that mean? Like we need to increase our moderator pool by 2 times. So there's a lot of documentation and work that needs to be done there before we can start recruiting. And then we've got, let's see, what else going on? We still have a lot of the communication stuff going on. That's great first issue stuff because it's just a lot of like research and data points that we're collecting about the communication stuff that we're doing. That's right here if you're interested in that issue. And then we're still working on closing out the contributor experience survey, but Dawn and I are actually working on some of that data for the contributor site strategy. So that's hopefully going to be done here shortly as well. And a ton of other stuff that's going on. Oh yes, and contributor summits, which I know Gwen actually has a question about during open mic. But we met with CNCF yesterday to talk about like budget and kind of what their goals are for the event. It's everything that we thought about. They said that, well, they'll kind of do whatever we want to do, and that there was no necessarily budget number. So, okay. Now we need to figure out as a group what that means, what events we're going to run, the teams that we need to kick off for these things, and then also set up sub-project meetings for this. I don't necessarily want us to have, hold on, I see chat going. I don't necessarily want us to have a lot of conversation about summits in this meeting because we have so much else going on. This year, I would like for us to break off into more sub-project meetings like a cluster lifecycle has, because this meeting every week, I think gets inundated and run down with all of the things that we do. And sometimes we can veer off into one direction. So I think that we should start breaking down into littler groups. I know like the non-code group meets today and stuff like that. And then we can kind of report and bubble that back up and in. So that's it for me for stand-up stuff. Does anybody have any questions on things that we're currently working on right now?
Why isn't your laptop plugged in?
Here, let me plug it in for you. There you go. There you go. There you go. Hardware.
Yeah, you're making us nervous.
I know. You all, I swear. Anyway. Now let's go right into open mic. The first thing I wanted to talk about today is the style guide stuff. To give folks context, when we were building the contributor site and George and Bob called Netlify from our community repo, we realized that oh, wow, these docs are either stale, out of date, shouldn't probably be showing on a contributor site, et cetera, et cetera. And then that's when we kind of like regrouped and decided, all right, well, we need a style guide because if things are going to get displayed on the intranets, they should have some kind of rules, if you will. And those rules are the style guide. So we are pretty much forking what the docs team has, and Bob's going to get into that in a second. So that's kind of, I just at least wanted to give some background. I know we have a lot of new folks on the line right now. So Bob, do you want to kick it off with what you've been doing with the style guide, and feel free to share your screen.
Sure. One sec. Okay. Can you see this okay?
No. Yes.
There we go.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Sort of as Paris was saying, like this sort of came out because the contributor site and essentially surfaced a bunch of the issues that we encountered with like no real consistent formatting through a bunch of stuff. So this is pretty common, you know, when you have multiple people, especially working on the same document, and things get PR'd in at various different times. And you know, this has generally been okay for us when everything's been working in the like out of the community repo, but trying to surface it on a website, it doesn't work out too well and isn't very like user friendly. So with that in mind, got work on this sort of like we want to get this like sort of out the door, especially for all the work going to like the developer guide, and so we can have pretty consistent formatting from the get go. And this doc itself is based off the docs style guide for general Kubernetes, like Kubernetes.io, but is a bit more firm and about all these other things in there than theirs. And I did this with a little bit of research into like various tech writing. I'm not an expert on this stuff by any means, but looked into various tech writing, and then like sort of the style guides from Google, GitHub, Microsoft, and sort of pulled in like what seemed relevant along with some of the other work that's been like done specifically around like tombstones and the links. That will dive right in. So the top part of this is just like a cheat sheet. I'm gonna actually go past all this and down to like the actual sort of rules or guidelines, I should say. That's the other thing. These are all guidelines. These are not hard rules. Things.
I know. I said the word rule. I apologize.
No, it's
I look at them as I look at them for myself as rules, but
yeah. So first and foremost, we'll start with like the content design format. Actually, yeah, content design formatting language. So don't use personal email addresses. This is pretty makes sense. Use the like cyclical groups or community at Kubernetes.io. Do we actually have a full list of all those, or is that all in the doc for gathering all our communication endpoints?
I don't know, actually.
Okay. In any case, going on, just some other stuff like explicitly with dates. There hasn't been a lot of consistency there. So when referring to like text dates, essentially try and use this format because it's very readable. It's very easy for people to tell, like especially international people to tell from the date. Same thing with dates in numerical format. Stick to ISO 8601, so year, month, day. Aim for a 24-hour clock. Other big thing is time should be expressed in UTC. Even if you're displaying local time, you should be at least link out to something that's in UTC, just with how large our community is. When it comes to like a possible link, I actually prefer the time zone converter service over the Google time converter, just because that's not always accessible in certain areas. Going into other stuff, so
can I just raise a nit on the UTC thing? You're welcome to tell me, deal with it, but UTC doesn't follow daylight savings time. There are a number of meetings that also make the mistake of specifying their time in terms of PST or EST or whatever, so they lock in which whether they're forward or backward into their time zone. There are time zones you can use that like jump around with daylight savings times, like PT and ET, for the US at least. Perhaps Europe has something similar. So because the problem is if you lock to UTC or something that doesn't follow daylight savings time, everybody's going to have to go change the information whenever daylight savings time happens.
That's a good point.
So just a
Yeah.
quick thought on that. I was actually going to say, you know, this actually is Europe, because when we jump around based on US times, other people's time zones don't jump around the same as we do in the United States on the same days. And so there's always these overlap periods where our time zones are jumping around different. Somebody's experiencing a pain point because of it.
I agree. Like, there's no perfect solution here. You're welcome to tell me I'm being too US centric. That's fine. I'm just saying, like, if you make the mistake of saying PST, you're going to be locked to a time zone.
Well, just
you may use some suggestion here is to.
How's that?
Okay, wait. I heard Ihor first, and then somebody else was saying something.
Ihor, you go first, and then Noah.
Okay. So the first suggestion here is to use GMT instead of UTC. So GMT is still a universal format, but it follows the time zone changes. So GMT +1 is actually the time that right now is on Greenwich. And another note that, as Matt mentioned, there are 1 or 2 weeks overlap between United States time zone change for the daylight saving and European. So I'm not sure how can we figure it out only manually just for these 2 weeks of the possible overlap. So just these 2 weeks we have an issue when we have not, like, for example, I have 10 hours difference with Pacific time with the West Coast regularly, but during these 2 weeks I have 9 hours difference.
Mm-hmm. So just to give you an idea, everyone, this is a problem the U.S. military had for a long time, and they just said, nope, we're all now using UTC time. Deal with it. So this is not something people easily solve, right? Like, the only way to solve this is to make the whole world go to one time standard. Do not think we have to solve this.
We use UTC if everybody in this community will set their secondary clock to UTC. And that can be a solution for everybody.
Can I call the eject handle on this?
Can Noah get in first?
Yeah, sorry.
What I was going to say is that you should probably split the recommendation, that if you're talking about a specific point, like a conference, a specific point in time, use UTC. If you're talking about a recurring thing, you should use the actual time zone you mean.
All right, I'm hammering down. We're done with this conversation. If you have questions about this, there is an open PR right now. So let's get everybody to, like, bike shed in the PR. Cool. All right, go ahead, Bob. Keep going.
Okay. Other thing is diagrams, images, and other assets. Right now, there's sort of no standard convention of where this stuff lives. This is just sort of, my call on it. I'm welcome to other suggestions on dumping stuff in the same folder as where the primary document is. The other thing is, whenever you are doing a diagram, actually use the Kubernetes icon set that we have for everything. I think actually Draw.io now just has this natively in their thing now.
Pretty.
Yeah, just a quick note is Draw. Yeah, they mentioned on Twitter that they have this one and another solution, but not Lucidchart as far as I remember.
You can import them into Lucidchart, because I've done that myself.
Yeah, but manually, but it's not available out of the box.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll fix it out, but yeah. Draw rocks.
Next thing, sorry, I'm just sort of breezing through this. Next thing is just sort of standard document layout is only have one sort of single H1 right at the top, or like if it's a massive document with large sections, then it's appropriate again, and follow the hierarchy of, like, H1, H2, H3, H4. Don't, sort of jump around and all that. And if the document is pretty large, do include a table of contents. Next is formatting, just like stuff regarding formatting text, and this sort of adheres to the actual, Kubernetes documentation and style guide. So same thing for, like, API objects, use camel case or whatever is appropriate for the language. Don't split API objects into their components. Use code styling, angle brackets for placeholders. And moving on to other things like bold text for user interface elements. I don't think that'll be too applicable for us, but it's there in the SIG docs style guide. Italics when introducing a new concept for the first time. And then code styling for file names, directories, and paths. Command line examples of flags, and object field names.
So Bob, tell us the top 3 things that you think are going to be different for most people.
Okay, I think that will probably be the links.
Okay.
And I know we've talked about this before. I know there's the I think the link guide of preferring like reference style links over inline style links.
Okay.
For a lot of scenarios, just because it like makes it easier to read and update the doc, especially if the link is used more than once. So if you pop back over to.
Thank you for documenting this part. I mess this up all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely go in between.
Yeah.
Like whatever I'm feeling at the moment. Like, do I feel like my links are at the bottom?
So if I pop over to like the discuss guides here, you can see like when actually editing and working on the document, like that's a link right there. And that's just easier to have in line. It's not, shoving this text far out away or anything like that. And then like there's several times where I'm referring to like the code of conduct multiple times, and just having that single link at the bottom is super handy.
What else is like super different for most folks on this call?
I think the big thing will be the preference on the line length, and this is completely up for debate, is I have everything here like at 80 characters.
Oh boy.
Yeah, this is the opinionated one. I have no real preference. I just went with 80 because that's sort of the standard for a lot of other things. And I know Markdown will word wrap, but when it comes to like, trying to edit and work on a document, like having a character limit is, pretty helpful. If anyone is curious, GitHub's Markdown is 120 characters wide. So if you're at 100 and, if the limit is 120 characters, you're going to get a pretty decent idea of what it's going to look like on GitHub itself.
I know Aaron has an opinion on this, and I want Aaron to share that in the comments. We are not bike shedding that number right now.
I'd like to see him talking, but keep him muted.
Does anyone have any questions for Bob and or style guide stuff?
I want to thank you for this. This looks like a lot of work. Like, seriously.
Yes.
Writing it actually wasn't too bad. It was just like doing mostly the reading to find what makes sense. And
one thing that I might request is a scope of what counts as documentation. Like so obviously like the website docs, but what about like stuff in SIG repos?
Yeah, this is just our repo style guide, essentially.
Repo.
Yeah, I feel like our next step could be getting SIGs on board with this. But I feel like just an iteration would, I mean, us trying this out, I think would be required for them to want to adopt this.
I would suggest treating this like any code style guide. If it's a guide that has to be enforced by humans, things will drift.
Yeah.
So deal with it. If it's something that can be enforced by machines, then we can start being a little more persnickety about it.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, they're guidelines. They're not.
Yeah.
Rules.
I mean, in this stuff, it really does have to do with things that we're exposing on the internet, meaning like a domain that's not GitHub. All right. So action here is for people to respond on Bob's PR. We will keep it open for the required length to collect some feedback, so at least 72 hours. And then hopefully by next week, we will have a merged style guide. Questions, concerns, comments? All right. Thank you so much,
George.
Yeah,
George, I'm sorry I didn't see you.
You're gonna push that to the list, the 72-hour thing.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right.
Yep. Yeah. No. Our next step now is to take it to the list that the thing has been PR'd, and that you have 72 hours to bike shed on 80 characters.
Okay. And a quick one, are we going to add this to like the template when people first do their PRs, like kind of like check out our stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, I was just curious. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, this is kind of our very first step into this great wide world of getting our shit together. So, all right. And thank you, Bob. If you want to unshare, now we're going to go to Anita, which I'm super pumped about. Anita, are you going to share your screen at all? If so, you can just go ahead and take it over. If not, go ahead and give us a chat. And do a little brief intro one more time, just because I know a lot of folks had joined late as well.
All right, I have shared my screen. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. Should I start then?
Go ahead. It's all you.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for letting me speak to you. I'm Anita Sharma. I'm at Oregon State University, so I'm a beaver, as we have been talking, but I have a platypus situation at home. But what we are talking about today is inclusivity and whether the software, tools, and technology itself that we use can impact inclusivity. So let's start. And I should be presenting as like this, I guess. Yes, this is better. So you might ask, like, gender and software, like, how do they even relate? And then what we would like to say is that most software actually have embedded in them gender bias bugs. And you ask, like, really? Where? And the answer is in the software that you create and the tools that you yourself use to create the software. And why does it matter? A lot, because it is like certain individuals with certain cognitive styles have to pay a cognitive tax every time that they have to work with the software, with the tool. And if we actually help this underserved minority, it actually helps create better software for everyone. As a case in point, curb cuts. In the 1940s, someone noticed, like, war veterans have a really hard time crossing intersection because of the pavement. So they said, oh, let's make curb cuts. And it really helped people who are in wheelchairs. But it also helped people who have walkers and those who have baby strollers, those who actually cycle and have intersections to cross. And this few minority of us who have to drag our rollerboards around, right? So helping folks who are in wheelchair get into the intersection easier helped a large cross-section of the population. So what we want to do over here is, how can we reduce or remove biases that are embedded in software? How do we find those gender biased bugs? And the answer is through a method that we call Gender Mag method. It stands for Gender Inclusiveness Magnifier. So it's gender and mag. But really, if it's easier for you to talk to others and call it inclusive mag, that's fine too. Because what we are looking at is, it is a process to evaluate your tool's inclusiveness from the focus of problem solving. So if you have an individual, a user who's using an IDE, a software tool, any kind of configuration, they are doing some kind of problem solving. And there are 5 cognitive styles or cognitive facets that tend to cluster by gender. And I'll talk about these 5 facets. And what Gender Mag method is asking to do is, if you take a use case or a scenario, and then you walk through your tools and say, would your user have this goal in mind? Would they take this action? Would they know they have taken the right action? And then you kind of have a persona with one of this set of cognitive facets, and then say, would this person have a problem? Why or why not? And when we answer why or why not, we're trying to pull in these cognitive facets about how different people problem solve differently. All right. So here are the facets. So the Gender Mag personas we have 4 of them. We have Tim, Abby, and 2 Pats. Patrick and Patricia are twins, so they're interchangeable. But Tim and Abby are at the 2 ends of the spectrum with very different cognitive styles. And there are 5 facets that we have. Motivations, how information is processed, computer self-confidence, self-efficacy, risk averseness, and learning style. In the interest of time, we won't go through everything, but we'll take one facet. We'll take risk averseness. And let's look at a particular persona that we have. Here is a persona for Abby. You see this gray line? On top of the gray line, it's changeable. You can change the background, skills, whatever pictures you want, put any pictures. But on the bottom is where we have the 5 facets. If you take one of the facets, attitude towards risk, it says that Abby rarely has any spare time. So she's risk averse about using unfamiliar technology that might need her to spend extra time. So it's not that Abby is scared of technology or Abby won't push a button. It's just that she is super busy and she knows how to do certain things a certain way. If she has to change her style, it just takes more time, and she is not willing to try just new technology because of this time's problem. Each of these facets have been backed by at least 5 independent empirical studies where we found statistical differences in men's and women's preferred cognitive style. Here is the risk averseness. This was a self-reported survey of men in blue and women in pink, showed here, and how they self-reported their risk tolerance. First thing to note is that there's a lot of overlap. So it's not that all men are risk tolerant and all women are risk averse, right? There's a lot of overlap. But if we look at the line, more women than men tend to be risk averse than the opposite, right? And what happens is we have Tim, who is in charge of looking out for the risk-averse cognitive facet for all these people on the left-hand side. So we have 42% men and 25% women. Abby is on the other side, and we have the Pats looking at the middle. So if we are using software or building software that is on the left of this black line, right? Because most often we have in software development people of a certain kind, and most often they are the Tims. But if we only work with Tim's facet, then we are leaving behind a lot of other people. We are leaving behind about 70% women and 50% men, right? So that's the thing to take out from here. What we're trying to do with Gender Mag is about being inclusive. It is not about essentialism. It's not that all men are this way and all women are this way. And to do that, we have in the persona the pictures that showcase men and other genders and other race. We recognize just like gender is in a spectrum, what we want to say is we want to support the cognitive style of different people from one end of the spectrum to other end, right? So if you make Abby's life easier and we make Tim's life easier, everyone's life is better and easier. It is also dependent on individuals. So it's not that one individual will have all the cognitive facets that Abby has. For example, here is me. I am very different than Abby in information processing and tinkering, but closer to Abby in computer self-efficacy and attitude towards risk. It can also be situational. I might be much more risk tolerant if I have just talking to my students or just in my class. Whereas, if I'm giving a talk at a bigger place or I have a grant proposal due or a release due, I will be much more risk averse, right? So it's also situational. So what does it mean for open source tools and inclusivity in the tools? We did a field study with 5 open source projects where these teams looked at their software, their projects, and ran a Gender Mag session to identify where there would be problems. Very quickly, since I only had 10 minutes or 12 minutes to finish my talk and I want to leave the rest for asking questions. So what we did, we took all the use cases, we had them kind of walk through each action, and there they found out if there was a problem that a user would face. And remember, we have to ask, like, would Abby have a problem? Yes, no, maybe, and why? So some of the problems might be just, hey, the label is really small or the font size is really small, and that's okay, that's a problem. But if it is because of certain Abby's facets, like information processing style, then they mark it with the facet. And then we collected all the problems with those facets, and that shows us the percentage of problems that the teams found and gender biases involved because they affected the facets. And as you can see here, quite a bit of the problems had gender or these cognitive facet related issues. Here is an example This is about how Abby likes to process information. She likes to get comprehensive information processing style. She likes to get all the information before starting on a task. And here, one of the participants says, hey, like the way the resources are organized in this website is counterproductive to the way Abby likes to learn. She would get lost down a rabbit hole of finding information, trying to get all things done. Another case is here, to actually find what the PR policy is, you only find that when you open a new pull request. Other than that, you don't find this information. So you have to go and click on something. And here is Abby doesn't like to tinker. She likes to get information and then like do something. And here you're forced to make her start a pull request and then find out the policy, and like, doesn't work, right? A single problem could have multiple facets. Like here, it could be how she processes information and as well as risk averseness. So two facets might be involved in the same problem or the same information source that you have. So this is kind of very high overview. So what I want to like get out and have you guys, have you folks realize is what we want to do is de-bias your software tools and technology that you use, because it pays off. Because having people being contributors, having people do any kind of voluntary work itself is work. Now, if someone has to do this extra cognitive task, extra workload just to get to use your software, it's just making it harder. So why not we be inclusive in the tools we create, in your business, in our classrooms, software tools, and therefore make a more inclusive society. And this is the picture down here shows that, we are not pinks and blues. Some of us are yellow, some of us are green, we are all different kinds of people. We want to support everyone and be inclusive. I'll leave this on as you ask questions. So the Gender Map Kit is free. You can download it. We'll be more than happy to help you out if you want to run a Gender Map session on your project, on your documentation, or what have you. So Paris and I are talking about having a go at the Go documentation from the perspective of the Gender Map sessions to find out if there are some parts of the documentation that, is not supporting any of the facets.
So,
all right, questions?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually right around documentation too. So if I have, from your work, if I have a set of documentation, have you found that one set can ever fit all needs, or should we actually consider writing documentation based on different facets and personas?
So the thing is, it's hard to kind of have pink and blue.
Right.
Like if you separate it out, then you might not reach all the pinks or all the blues, and then it'll be such a nightmare keeping all of them, all of them consistent, right? So ways to look at is instead of saying, let's have a pink documentation for Abby and something else for Tim, what you want to look at is like different ways that you can use UIs or filtering. So maybe it's not that you have separate documentation, but the way you structure them. Maybe accordion style, so you have some information, and if Abby wants to know more information, then she can click on it, or have like pop-ups that she can just tick so that she can look at the work, whereas Tim would just go in and start clicking down there and do stuff. So I would say like it's not very, just because it's going to be a problem later on to have separate documentations, and I might assume like it's documentations for women only, so I don't want to go there. Like maybe
no, like
documentation.
Yeah, I think I asked the wrong question. Like, what your answer was, what I was basically asking was, is there a better, like, should I have 2 or 3, like a drop down for different styles?
Right, I think so. So what we are looking at is we are looking at information architecture. So we are doing a kind of study right now based on this this open source data that we had, and trying to match each of this information structuring or information architecture with the cost of accessing and the cost of going to a particular site. And using that, then you can try to figure out what is the least amount of cost Abby or Tim would bear to reach the actual information piece you want. Because it's not just the clicks and the boxes, it's also where you structure the information, what kind of cues you give so that they pop up. Because even though Abby is comprehensive information processing style, that she reads everything, she's a regular human and she's busy. So if there's something information hidden deep down, she might not see it. And I really like the way you're saying whenever you start a new topic in documentation, start with italics, right? That is emphasis, that is a cue that pops out. So those kind of things to like help Abby as well as Tim kind of find the information quickly, and then help them out by like, filtering the space that is all there.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Questions? Last call.
I had a
Questions, but
comment.
that was awesome.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your presentation. It was really clear, and I just kind of sort of had like this light bulb moment of, oh, there is a very logical reason why some people are more risk averse than others. It is not anything innate, or, you know, it's like literally a factor of time. How much time does one person has? And that is something that I had never really realized quite like that. And I think it's starting to make my day. I'm having a lot of feelings about this right now. So
right. The other part also is the time and familiarity, right? If you are an open source contributor, you have worked on one project, you have some familiarity, it's easy to figure it out. But if everything is unfamiliar, it's just so much extra burden, and it just makes it harder.
I mean, I went to code school as a single mom, so it just kind of like, it makes so much sense. So thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Anita. This was wonderful. I saw the extended version of this at Mozilla. So this was wonderful. And I immediately, as soon as I heard the last part, I had walked in the door during the last segment, and the segment was something like, oh, if your project wants this. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, looking around, no one else is so excited. I'm like, hey, over here, Kubernetes. So that's how Anita and I got hooked up. And Anita and I will be continuing work together. So if anybody else likes this work, feel free to join us. And that is it. We have
I have this link. If you missed it, or it was too quick, there is a link that is a write-up, like a blog kind of write-up that kind of talks about the concept. So if you want to look at that, it's also useful.
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah, that's the one, opensource.com article, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. That's in our notes. So FYI to everybody listening, there's a longer version of this in the notes. All right.
All right. Cool. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
No, thank you. I'd like to eventually spider this information out to all of our SIGs. I don't know how we can do that or whatever. We can talk about that at a separate time. The meeting is over for folks who need to jump. I know there's several items on the open mic discussion. Most of them are PRs that are moving from Aaron. Aaron, I don't know if you want to stay on the line. I don't even know if you are still on the line. You may have jumped. Oh no, there's your head. I see you.
I'm good. I think I can take all of this offline in writing.
Okay. Yeah. If you want to just mailing list, if anybody else has anything that they need to accomplish this week, take it to the mailing list. And then if anybody wants to hang on, I can still hang on for a few minutes. And anybody else that wants to hang on, we can get through some other open-ended items. George, is this available as a standalone video? Yes, I believe it is. Anita, you've got this video recorded, right?
No.
Do you want me to record you? Do you want we can do like a separate Zoom meeting and like you can do it all over again and I can record you?
Okay, yeah, sure. Let's do that then.
Yeah, we can do like a 30-minute session and you can just kind of talk to yourself. I'll be in your corner snapping.
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay. I mean, I also have a podcast, but it's more like a conversation. So like a video of the talk might be better. And then I think the longer video and people can send back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and Aaron made an awesome point too, that we could always link to this meeting. But at the same time, it might be fruitful for folks to see the whole thing if they want to see the whole thing too. But we'll talk offline. Last minute things that need to get addressed right now, say or speak or forever hold your peace. Edward, hand up. I know you've got dev guide stuff going on. Feel free to shoot. And then, like I said,
have another meeting, so I gotta go.
Go ahead. Bye, Anita. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, Edward, shoot. Dev guide. You're on mute.
Zoom still has you muted.
Yeah, Zoom still has you muted. And I don't think I can unmute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Yeah. Okay. most of the information and docs have been classified by SIGs, and most of the information that had to be deleted have been deleted. Also some docs. And I would say that probably between 40 and 50 documents in the folder has been reviewed by the SIGs. I've been contacting them by, Slack, email list. And I think for this week, we're going to have a really good, organized, and clean developer guide. And so far, that's what I've done.
And you're like, so far, that's a lot. Number one, that's a lot. You've made a ton of progress. You have shepherded things that none of us here have been able to shepherd because of just ambiguity and time and whatever. So you have already made great progress, Edouard. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for all of your efforts. Does anybody have any questions for Edouard on like next steps and things like that? I also want to thank everybody that's on the line right now that has also been approving Edouard's stuff and reviewing it. Gwen, I know you, I see, and of course Nikita, I see you both in there as well all the time. So thank you very much for that. Questions, concerns, comments for Edouard with dev guide stuff? No? All right. You've got a lot of thank yous in chat, Edouard.
Okay.
Anyone else last minute for open mic? And then Edouard, Nikita, and I will work with you separately with next step stuff. Cool.
One question, has somebody volunteered to be in charge of the Contributor Summit in Barcelona? Last email I got from you, it didn't seem like we had a volunteer yet.
No, we have no volunteers to lead the new contributor workshop piece. We have several hands up right now. Go in first.
I got a couple volunteers to help, but I don't know if I'm going to go. I haven't been able to speak to my manager in the last 2 weeks. It's totally on my list for my next one-on-one, but there's no plans. So I'm happy to do it. I would love to go to Barcelona, but it depends on whether I'll get to go.
And then George hand.
Yeah, Jonas says he'd love to step up and lead. But he had to leave early.
Okay.
Awesome.
And is that the new contributor workshop piece, or is that the whole shebang?
The whole shebang, if you want. You can actually relax, and we can make Jonas do everything. I meant we could work with Jonas to facilitate.
If I go, I will help Jonas.
Yeah, no, I will happily help Jonas lead this adventure. I don't want to lead new contributor workshop though. That's so Gwen, if you are on board with that, and Josh, were you on board with that as well? No, I know you're on board for Shanghai.
Actually, because of staffing issues, I'm going to actually have to run the OpenShift Commons, which conflicts with the contributor.
Yes.
So I'm probably not going to be even attending.
Okay. Well, maybe.
Sorry, I missed the last thing you said, Paris. Do you want to lead? Don't want to lead?
I don't want to lead the new contributor workshop piece. I will happily, like George, take tasks and do things for you. I just don't want to lead that piece.
Okay. Sorry.
I'll lead the like a contributor social piece, meaning like all of us can get together and have fun. I don't know if they bowl in Barcelona, but we can figure out what they do for fun.
Or board games.
Yeah, so we'll get this little sub-project going, and then we can spider out what we need. So right now for Barcelona, me, George, Gwen, Jonas, who else wants to help out with Barcelona? I mean, we'll put this on the mailing list as well, but everybody, Jeff has got like a semi hand, Bob's got a taffy hand.
It just depends on if
the twins.
Help as much as possible leading up to it, and at site will just depend on if approved to go or not.
Okay. All right. So right now we've got a Jeff, a Bob, and a Gwen who are unsure if they're going to go, but all of them will do the work leading up to it. All right. Yeah, I mean, in the worst case scenario, if I have to like stand up there and deliver it, that's fine. I'll do that for you. Just do the damn thing for me. All right. Last call for anything else. We'll obviously have even more conversation about Contributor Summit stuff in the upcoming weeks. Gwyn and Josh, both of you check your email though. It's about venue information. Josh, Shanghai for you. Gwyn, if you could help us with any venue requirements that we need, like best practice stuff from the years prior, that's exactly what we're looking for there. You don't have to pick the venue. Just like, hey, bigger room, like that kind of thing.
It's the checking my email part that I was hiding from.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the, I don't want to do
I
it.
can do venue requests all day long, but you just asked me to check my email.
All right, I just saw, I don't want to do it.
No, all good.
All right, cool.
I should
well,
check.
And that's good
email.
too.
You're right.
Like, yeah. Getting the people that I don't want to do it out of the way is great. Not out of the way, but like I don't want to do it. All right. Noah, Noah is also giving a high five. Noah, is that your I'm in for Barcelona or good luck to everyone high five? Noah, you're on mute. Oh yeah, that's
me raising my hand also.
Okay. Okay, cool. All right, so then Noah's on staff too. Awesome. All right. Last call for open mic. All right. Watch out for all of the PRs that Aaron listed. I know we didn't get to go through all of them, but some of them are community changing things. One of them is endorsement for Nikita, but it's a silent endorsement. So if you have issues, then talk to Aaron. And then I think that's it. Christoph, do you have anything? Nikita, do you have anything? All right.
Nope, nothing for me.
Nope.
All right. Oh, GSOC. What about GSOC? What's going on with GSOC? When's our next deadline?
February 6th. So we need to get the list of mentors by then. I mean, we sent out the call for mentors and project ideas to Kubernetes dev, but I have that on my list to like go ping people who said they were interested before and follow up with them.
All right. For those that are on the line that have no idea what we're talking about Google Summer of Code. Check your email. I would love to get a contributor experience project in there, but it is code. I have pushback even internally, and that did not work. So it is definitely code. I don't know, like even Edouard, if you can think of things like from an automation perspective that you see while you're building the developer guide that, you know, another intern could work on from an automations perspective, you too even. So that's definitely also very much an extension of you too. But if there's anything else that you see just poking around from like hey, this would be cool perspective, let us know. Cool. Sure. And then Christoph, you too, if there's anything that we can do, that would be awesome. And then get the word out too in your SIGs, other SIGs, meaning if you, for instance, hang out in SIG networking, tell them about GSOC, just give it as a reminder. Release team, you might be able to use a GSOC intern for some kind of automation or some kind of maybe dashboard building, or I don't know, think big, I guess. I guess that's sort of the motto here is like, think of things that are on your P99 list that would be super cool to do, but we don't necessarily have anyone as a full-time person. This would be that full-time person. That's how we got Edouard. We're like, dream big, let's do a dev guide.
And a quick reminder of GSOC that the deadline is February 6th, internal deadline here. Yes, so please collect your ideas before the date.
Yes, no, a good reminder. The next meeting is the APEC time. I was the one that completely goofed that up. Long story about goofed by Gwyn. And don't forget 8 p.m. Pacific time next Wednesday for this call. I will be leading that up, and Christoph's usually on, Nikita's usually on. It's a good time. So
that means that it's Thursday UTC.
Yes, it's Thursday 3 a.m. UTC. Yes.
That was not clear from the from the Google Doc.
Yes, I will definitely change that. I did change it in the Slack channel for our Asian contributors because they definitely told me that the last time. All right. Last call for other things. For real this time. All right. That's it for us. See everybody next Wednesday/Thursday, depending on what time zone you're in. Wednesday from, I think, all of us on this line. All right.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Take care.